Welcome once again to Dream Career Talk Show. And today we have something very special as a topic. We all know that we take care of physical health because it was taught to us in schools through physical training. We call them PT classes. But sadly, there is hardly any school or college where they talk about mental health. Because of less awareness, people go through many mental challenges and they don't know whom to reach, how to resolve. So today's topic is around mental wellness, and today's guest, Dr. Suresh Adiga, is a health wellness mentor and an advocate for mental strength. Suresh has spent over 30 years, nearly 30 years in the IT industry. He's passionate about people and developed his interest in understanding how the human brain works. He has been contributing to mental wellness advocacy within and outside his organization. His contribution has been recognized and given an honorary doctorate from the Mahatma Gandhi University of Florida, USA. He has conducted sessions at various locations and covered more than 1 lakh people by bringing awareness on wellness, especially on mental wellness. Let us talk. Under this key message, he brings awareness and the importance of talking about wellness by avoiding the stigma associated with mental wellness in the current industry. He's the upcoming author of the book Battling Mind to Beautiful Mind. You can see on the screen as well, by helping people to align the right direction for life. Before someone says rest in peace, his aim is to enable people to live in peace. Suresh, I think I've known you for about 2 years or more than that, and you have been doing some amazing work out there in mental wellness. So thank you for accepting this invite and being here on Dream Career Talk Show.
Thank you, Fatah, for the opportunity to be bringing this awareness and touch those souls who need a shoulder to lean on and talk. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, we will start with something that you talk about awareness to advance, right? Before we talk about creating awareness, how did you get this awareness about mental wellness, right? Because did you learn it from school, college, or where did this awareness start from? And how did you get started in this journey of helping others on mental awareness?
Thank you, Fatah. Let me give a little context on why and where the trigger started for me. In everybody's life, we go through a stage of a life where it brings you a aspect where what we do next and why this happened. So that question why starts haunting you a lot of things. It was way back in 97 when I was in US for my assignments on IT job. And back in here in India, like my mother, my sister was my mother for me. We were twins as we born, and my mother was taking care of my brother, and my sister was taking care of me. That's how our life started. She got married. It was almost 6 years or 7 years after her marriage, and I was in US in 97. And while in the marriage, there is always a certain level, there is a dispute that happens. There has been a dispute between herself and her husband, and the dispute was so much that she could not even come back and speak to any of us, and she committed suicide. I lost my mother, and we were not financially so rich that we can flew back. I can flew back and see her last face. That could not even happen. That made me to start thinking about what goes on in the human mind when they go through a difficult time in their life. If she would have spoken to any one of us about her situation, we could have done something rather than taking that extreme step for someone like my mother who was taking care of me when I'm very young and when I came to this universe. That day, I decided if I am alive, I would like to let people talk to me on their pain. Whatever that can be done from my end, I will look at it and see how can I help. I also studied little deep into this, trying to understand what happens in the human brain over a period of time when they go through a severe stress. And it is that spark, the small time, if they can push that out, they cannot get into a committing suicide level. And that is when they needed a support, an extreme support that is required. You can't save any life, you can't give anybody a new life, but you can give that shoulder that you have to lean on and cry for their pain or difficulties that they are going through in their life. From then onwards, I said, okay, my shoulders are there for somebody to lean on, cry if they are going through a tough time. That could help to recover their pain, what goes in their mind, to get back to the life. This is a trigger on which I started, and that's when I started going deep into understand what goes in the mind, and that's the reason battling mind to a beautiful mind.
Right. And first of all, sorry for your huge loss. Right. And I think for many people, this is how they identify their purpose of life is through pain. I think for you as well, it has come through the deep pain that you have gone through, your family has gone through. And from there, you taking up this big cause. It is really inspiring the way you are actually helping people, and your intention to help more lives by transforming them and then giving them that support and that shoulder. So that's really inspiring. So it was in the year like, what was the year when you actually saw this problem, and from then how many years it took for you to first of all understand what is mental awareness and then getting started on this journey of helping others?
Yeah, it, as I said, it was in 97. So over that period of time, my thought level was not that much, but it was only pain that was going through in my mind, saying, okay, why was going through that. But over a period of time, post that, I have seen couple more people who are at the verge of losing their life, and that is when I discussed with them, and it helped. That's when I started in late 2000, 2010 or so. That is when I started thinking little deeper into it, see if I had to do something more, that is where I need to learn. So I started working with the couple of groups which are working on this mental wellness, and that is where I connected with the uh, various groups in US, and Larry Bratton is one who helped me to get more insights into what happens here and all this. I also did my diploma from University of Toronto for mental wellness and mental health aspect of it. That is when I got deep into. And 2020, when the Corona hit, that is where it took leap onto it, and a lot of people were going through. I started jumping in, helping those people, and that is when I started unions started recognizing it, and that's on the August 27 this year. Because of the contribution that I'm doing, and University of Florida has recognized me and honored me. I would say this is gratitude to my sister, and I leave it to her on this.
That's really nice to see that you have been recognized. I think multiple platforms have recognized you, and this is one of the big platform from the University of Florida, right? So that's one recognition. But you spoke about how actually you were able to help a lot of people during COVID. So what was the big challenge you saw with people during COVID when it came to mental wellness?
See, many a times people do not think about staying in the current moment. They start suffering because of their past sin or past activities, or anxiety and furious about the future. So staying calm, staying at present was one of the specific need during that time, because there was so much news that was spreading it across. As we always say, missing tail syndrome. People look at negativity and it gets spread much faster than what is positive. I still remember conversation that I was having couple of my team members who are going through with this suffering from a COVID. They were being fed with lot of negative news. So many people lost their life and all those, but there was no positivity spread. So many people recovered even after infected with the COVID. So that is where we were trying as a group of people who are talking to these infected people or their parents, to trying to give them that positivity and hope of living the life positively and staying at present. That is a very important aspect that, as I saw, it was very important for anybody to realize in the life, not just during COVID. Fatah, I would like to add on, everybody goes through in their life at a various stages, especially
Right.
school kids. During their exams, they go through another sort of stress, and when the result comes in across, there is another anxiety. So who expect more score, they are the one who gets impacted rather than somebody who is not really expecting. So that is when The thought started generating whether expectation is wrong or what should be the right way of doing it. In
Hmm.
Sanskrit, we say that. In Bhagavad Gita, he also says, Krishna also says, Karmanye vadikaraste mapaleshu kadachana. Do your duty and rest, leave it to this one. But doing your duty, do it right, just not for the sake of it. You are student, you are supposed to do it what you are supposed to do it. Do not take too much of attention on the result of it. But doing your duty, you need to do it effectively. That is what the message that I have been spreading across in order to get to do not worry about the result. And that is where the worries, tension, everything comes in across. As you have done your duty right, whatever result that comes in across, accept it. God sometimes tests everybody in every time, and the paths are well defined for us because universe has defined and created. There is a ladder. It is not created not going anywhere. There is a path. You just need to find a right path for you. That's where I spread the positivity across.
Right. So you have been spreading a lot of positivity around. But Suresh, since you have also been in the IT world for about 30 years, right? So
Yes.
a lot of people, when they lose their job, that's the only source of income, right? And that's when they start feeling, hey, I'm a failure. I can't really do things. So how do they handle this kind of a thing? Because again, like we talk about positive mindset, but a lot of failures going on in our life. So how do we handle that bit? Right, and still stay strong and keep moving ahead.
Fatah, you have raised an excellent question. So, I always say that in the IT career, because of the way we evaluate people based upon certain parameter, survival is every year for an IT industry person, whether he is performing good or not, because there are guidelines on which the company operates, and there are guidelines on which the business operates. So one has to understand the aspect of it. And when they get through this sort of evaluation, irrespective of whether they have been performing in that particular year or not, because it is an yearly evaluation, people do get tagged onto a lower performer level or a higher performer level and all those stuff. Taking it balanced and understanding individual strength is very important aspect for anybody. In especially in IT, it's more than physical work, it is a mental work.
Right.
Your thoughts generates a lot of ideas and a lot of things that gets done, and you will be put into a difficult situation where you need to contribute not by physical work, through your mental work. And this is where the mental wellness comes into very effective. And there are examples where within my team members who have been tagged particular year because of their lower performance. And it is not just in the performance, because performance gets impacted with the personal life aspect of it individual as well. I work closely with the team in such scenarios, helping them to understand, and they are outperformed in the upcoming year. So there are examples, there are many people who I help them to bounce back. Whenever I communicate these messages, it is not to be considered as you have been tagged. The performance in this particular year has been this. And that's the way we communicate, so that we are not demoralizing that individual, because individual has his own strengths. If a company we have not used his strength, then obviously there is an outcome which is different than what it was expected. We had to understand that as a leaders.
Right. And you were also talking about when it comes to work, even for students, keep studying, do not look at results. But in today's world, there is a lot of competition, right? We always try to compare with others. And of course, even if we don't do that, especially in the academics, there's a lot of comparison that happens from outside, from parents and other people. So, how do you handle that? And then, how do you actually keep working on yourself and stay positive without actually looking at the results? How do you do that? Like, how can students actually handle this?
Yeah, I think this is where I was telling about a resilience, human resilience. So, resilience is a thought that generates within our mind. All of us, in every part of our life, from a childhood to an adulthood or even the aged people, all of us goes through that part of this one at a time when the result is out, or when there is some change that happens in our life. For example, if somebody gets married within a couple of years, they don't have kids, then they go through another sort of this one. So all of us in across the stage of our life goes through this, not just on a results of a students, as you said. But yes, how do we handle it is getting that awareness. That is where I said being aware is the first part of it. Let me show you an example. This is an rubber band. Okay, it is of this size, and it will be useful when it is stretched to its full extent. It can
Right.
hold, let's say, this bottle to a certain level. Okay, if I put it across to this, there is a stress, and it is doing its duty right. However, if the same rubber band, if I put it onto a pen, and it is not holding it effectively, and this is where our mental capacity is, and the capacity is not fully utilized here, whereas when I put it onto the bottle, it was using it fully. Now
Right.
I can stretch it to a certain level, beyond that bottle to a certain level. Now we need to understand and be aware of what is our capacity first place. Okay, now the second aspect, how do we grow from here, is what we need to look at is what we should do. We should change our thought process. That means we should grow from where we are, and this is a bigger one. If you have to take a better load, then we need to look at how do we change this context. And our brain also works in the similar way. We don't use full brain, and maybe even less than 10% from an overall perspective, but we have a more potential. We need to understand our potential and expand our context in order to see what we need to take on. And if your student is of caliber this size, and we are trying to push the students to hold this capacity, obviously he will stress out and he will
Mm.
get burnt out. Now, as a parent, as a teacher, we need to find a mechanism through which this capacity of an individual, how can we change to this? And there
Right.
are mechanisms. That is through a process where we call it as the process. That is thoughts, habits, and emotions. And that's where
Mm.
we can help anybody to expand their context and understand and deliver to the need or a capacity that individual can.
Mhm. Okay, so that's a very good example that you shared about how within the capacity we are trying to push to too much of beyond their limits, right? So that's one thing. But when you were talking about parents, teachers, can there be any other roles that also can be played in terms of here, or can there be somebody else like a psychologist who can help them? Like it can be a mentor in their life. So who else can be a good person or that good source of information and also source of transformation for these kind of people?
Excellent question, Fatah. I would like to add on. So, when you say doctor, a psychological doctor, there is
Right.
already a stigma associated with it. None of the people, individual who is going through this sort of scenario where I said, okay, my strength is this much, but I wanted this capacity, but I'm unable to do it. They are seeing the stress and they just absorb it because they don't want to consult anybody. Because once you go to psychiatric consultant and all those, there is a stigma associated with it. Because if you get a wound on your body or injury on the physical part of it, you go and consult a doctor. But a
Right.
similar wound that happened within mind, which because of the strength that capacity, what I talked about, they do not want to consult a psychiatric doctor because they have a stigma associated with saying, okay, consulting a psychiatric doctor, I will be considered tagged as somebody not normal. So this
Right.
is where the big gap is. There are many scenarios where they can't express as a student, talk to their parents, especially teenagers when they go through a lot of difficult aspect in their life and all those. The second is they cannot even express openly with their teachers. They needed somebody, especially a mentor or a midway between psychiatric or an individual. That's where what I call those people as wellness advocates, like what I am serving it as, people who are possibly a mentor with whom they can openly talk what's happening, what's going on, so that there is no bias saying, okay, will I be considered tagged this way, tagged that way, or That is where the gap is right now. I would like to
Right.
give one more analogy out here. It's an oscillation that happens in our mind. If it is
Hmm.
between 0 to 45 degrees, this is acceptable. If you're going through a stress situation and it is there for 2 3 days, it's normal. One need not worry about it or do rush to a consultant or anybody. But between 45 to 90 degrees, an oscillation or a stress or a situation in a life stays for more than 1 week, this is where you possibly need to consult somebody whom you trust. And that could be a mentor, that could be an advocate, that could be a counselor that you should be reaching out to. Not necessarily a psychiatric doctor, because there is an associated stigma to consult a psychiatric doctor, but they can talk to these sort of, possibly having a mentor in the life is the best thing that one can look at. And in these scenarios, they can openly talk to them. And there is a possibility that you can come back to normals. But your situation in the mental, I would not call it as illness, but I would say mental situation, that you have a stress situation that is continuous and it is dragged on going beyond 15 days or even a month, that you are unable to come back. It is obviously you may need to consult a psychiatric doctor, and everything can be cured. That is something that one has to understand. And this is where the stigma associated with it, and even from a number of doctors perspective, because I have spoken to many psychiatric doctors as well, the number of patients to a number of doctor ratio is also really huge, and they cannot
Hmm.
take care of lot of these things, because many of them feel though they are into and impacted, but they are not really. It is the thoughts that they need to cover, and habits that they need to build in, right? And how do they control their emotions, and
Right.
staying in the context of the situation. If it is a night, there obviously a bad day, be a day. Only thing is you need to give that time. Time is something that one has to give in order to recover from wherever, whatever situation of life that they are going through.
Right. So when you finished with this, time is the solution, right? So, but one thing that comes to my mind here is now a lot of people are not even aware of the feelings that they are going through at times, right? So whether they really need to call for help, when do they need to call for help? Because if there is a physical challenge, they can identify it from outside, right? Even if it is say a blood sugar level or something that they want to have, they can diagnose this. But if they are going through this kind of stress or mental challenges, what are the first steps that they can do? Is there any way they can diagnose, they can identify, oh, that I need help and I need to call for help? So is there anything that you would want to bring up where people can identify, yes, now I need help?
Definitely, Fatah. I think Dr. Happiness and Dr. David from University of Florida, he has derived this very well. There is a set of 8 questions that you need to ask yourself. Okay, so there is a set of questions that you ask and then you answer them. You answer
Hmm.
them today, as 6 days later you answer the same questions again. If you are not improving your score on a score of 100, there are 8 questions, you will have a certain marks on it. You answer it, what thoughts comes to you, and then start paying attention to the areas where you need, and look at it after 8 days and see if there is a score improvement. If the score is not improving, then obviously your happiness is getting impacted. What it is
Hmm.
all of a day, if you really look at, when you are happy, you are performing to your full potential, and whatever activity you do, you get a better output. How do we control your happiness? That is what Dr. David from Dr. Happiness, he is called as Dr. Happy Doctor, he is called as. So he has
Hmm.
derived at a formula. So what one can do is go through that and assess himself or herself. That's one aspect of it. Now, for those people who find it difficult to answer and all those stuff, only thing is to observe. Observe what is impacting your happiness. If you are not happy, there is something bothering you. Obviously, you need to look at, is it bothering you or continuously? Is it an intermittent in your life? Say for example, especially women, in the context of they're going through a monthly cycle and all those, there are times where they go through a lot of change in their hormonal impact, and that also impacts them. at a certain time in the life. So it is not considered as they are mentally ill or anything, but as a male partner, one has to understand, yeah, this is something that they are going through, and many people do not know about it. And this is where the awareness part comes into picture. They simply think, okay, their habits are impacted or their way of behaving is not correct or anything. As a male member in the family, they need to understand, especially even school kids, especially the early part of their Manchester cycle starts, they go through this. And as a teacher, they should be aware of it. As a parent, one should be aware of it. These are the aspects, and many times this is not been spoken openly or clearly to be bring the awareness. Information is there everywhere, but
Hmm.
how do these information need to be consumed, and what is an impact of these, and how one should do take this in the life? That is the education that is required. As you said in the beginning of a show, is that physical education, PT, I still remember.
Right.
So there used to be a PT teacher in every school, and he used to make sure, okay, everybody gets into an activity, exercises and all those stuff. That's perfectly all right, but at the same time there is a need of, because with the information age, information is everywhere. Click on your button, you get a lot of information, but which information to use, which information to be used in what way, and at what age this information changes. So I just wanted to give a small analogy out here. Okay, a fly comes and falls onto a cup of coffee, you will throw the coffee out completely. If the same fly comes into, sits on a honey, a full glass, you just throw the fly out and use the honey back. So it's the same fly, but you need to look at, okay, what context you are looking at. It's the same thing. The information that is there, you need to find out at what time this information has to be given, for what purpose, and look at it and use it right. And none other than a good mentor can guide in any of the life situation. That is very important aspect that I would like to reiterate here.
No, I think that's a very important aspect as well, what you have brought in, because today's era, we know, like, we have Google, we have internet, everything is available there. But knowing how to use that information is very important, right? Otherwise, that information is of no use. And as you mentioned, I also strongly believe that it should not only be that PT or PFT, physical fitness trainer, right? Every school should also have a mental fitness trainer who can actually guide these students and help them at the right places. So we
Especially,
spoke about.
especially that is true, Pata. I just wanted to tell you a situation that happened in our apartment complex couple of years back. It was not too long back, 2016. A student whose second PU exams were over and results were out.
Hmm.
You know, he was expecting 96 or 97 percentage, whereas he got 92 or something. Look at the way the thought process gets generated. And parents were taking him for an admission to another school, and he came down and they were in the car. Immediately he said to his parents, saying, okay, I forgot to get my book and a pen, give me the key, I'll go home. They were in the 11th floor. He took the key from a parents were waiting in a car. This kid was not happy because he was expecting 96%, he got 92. That was going on in his mind. And this is a time where, as a parent, they need to be very cautious about what emotions the kids are going through at this stage. They thought it was a normal interaction, that he's going and getting his book and pen. They gave the key. He took the key, he went to his house, and the next 2 seconds is something that nobody would like to see in their life. He jumped out of the balcony in front of their car where they were waiting. His body was lying.
I can feel goosebumps on my body right now, because I think that's where a lot of these kids need help, right? And of course, we are also responsible for supporting and guiding them in the right ways.
Definitely, Fatah. So this is where the difficult part is, and where nobody understand what goes in across. That is where I always say, let us talk. When you talk about what is going on in your mind, people get to understand. If you have any wound outside or injury outside and people can see it, but the injury inside is not visible.
Right. So very rightly said. Now, one question I have here, Suresh, is
Yes.
of course, identifying and becoming aware of our feelings, right? What is going on with us also at times is very difficult, right? But what about others, right? Somebody who is connected with me, right? If I'm going through that feelings, how do people around me get to identify that, and how can they call for help, or how can they help, right? Are there any indications, are there any things that they can look at it and identify, hey, this person needs help, maybe I can do it, or maybe I should be calling for help from the experts? So how can we do this?
Great question, Fasad. This is a similar question that I get everywhere. And it is not that, okay, you need to be putting a binocular and seeing who is going through what pain or anything, okay? So if you are known to somebody and if their pattern of behavior is changing or their way of interactions are changing, for example, you have somebody who is a jovial person, he's very jovial all the time and all those, but all of a sudden you see that his way of behaving as what he used to do in the past is changed. Maybe
Hmm.
that is a time that you may need to sit with him with the compassionate asking, okay, is everything all right with you? He may not open up. Many a times they don't open up. Okay. That is when you may need to hide, look at and see whether you can take a help from somebody else with whom he can open up. And
Hmm.
this is where the trust, which is the foundation required for any counselor, any consultant in the specific mental wellness requires. If you're not trustworthy, they will not share the information. And when you're a trustworthy person that's sitting across with the right probing of the questions, that a set of questions, you can understand what's going on in their mind. And that has to be very compassionate one. As long as you talk to me as an individual, we will communicate. But once you start communicating with the compassion, with the emotion associated with it, which can be done only when truly care for others, because each of us are on this earth for a purpose, and get to a stage where people ending their life is something that I do not want to see. And that is the purpose behind when I spoke to anybody, I get to that level. And that is where I would like to make sure, okay, wherever I bring the awareness, bring that across. When you compassionate, when a soul can communicate to another soul, irrespective of gender, irrespective of religion, irrespective of age, when the soul communicate, it gets communicated very effectively. God has
Right.
given all of us different organs. There is a shoulder which you cannot lean on yourself on it, and that is why God has given it for leaving that shoulder to somebody to lean on it and cry if they are going through a difficult time. If you can help that trigger of, there is somebody whom they can talk to, there is somebody who care for you, and that is where you need to connect such people across. To answer your question in one word, if there is a change in the pattern for somebody, please be vigilant of it. And if it is 1 or 2 days, that's perfectly all right. But if it is happening regularly or if it is prolonged for a while, and that is when, because everybody in their life goes through some other problems,
Right.
and the context of having that awareness, this too shall pass, is very important for everybody to understand.
Yeah. I think that is very profound, whatever you said, right? This too shall pass. Because yes, good times do come, bad times also do come in our life. But then reminding ourselves, okay, it is not going to stay, right? The bad times are not going to stay. Of course, we also saw big challenges like COVID coming there, recessions have come and gone, right? So all these things, the times will come and pass. So reminding ourselves this time shall pass is very important. And the other, I think, the other attribute that you keep talking about is gratitude, right? How important is gratitude in our lives, and what role can it play in terms of helping people who are going through these mental challenges?
I think I would say gratitude is sort of a medicine for everybody. whether you are going through the challenge or whether you are being in a great life. Okay, so what happens when you express the gratitude? You are connected to a spiritual energy. So as a individual, we are nothing here. We are here for a purpose for a some time, and we also will leave this world. But if we really look at where we have come from, where are we going, we really don't know. There is a superpower and a special power that gives us a birth, and we are winner by getting a birth on this earth itself.
Right.
Okay, that's the first step that we need to. So that is where I call it a spiritual energy that is making us be in this universe. Then there is a physical energy which is part of our body, where physically we are here and all this. There's a third angle to it. It's a triangle concept that I look at it: spiritual energy, physical energy, and a mental energy. This is where the focus is required. We are having a lot of thoughts that get generated. As it says, 82,000 thoughts comes into our mind and goes every day and all those stuff. But what we feed more is very important aspect. Which thought that we seed and which we thoughts we make grow in our mind is very important aspect. So that is where the mental energy or mental wellness is, and which leads to a physical wellness and a spiritual wellness. We came from somewhere, we are going somewhere, we are here for a certain time, and that time we need to make use of best in order to do best and serve the humanity to an extent that is possible from your own capability and capacity.
Right. And you spoke about the thoughts, right? Number of thoughts that we come across, like
Correct.
approximately 82,000 thoughts that we go through, right? So, how do we ensure that we are thinking positive, right? We are actually converting a lot of our thoughts into positive thoughts. Is there any formula for this, or is there any framework or any process that people can follow that can help them to stay positive?
Definitely, Fatah. I think that's a very valid and all those. As we speak, no, there may be so many thoughts that are going in our mind as well. Or people who are listening to this also might go through a lot of, because we are sitting here, but our mind is so superpower. We can get back to any place in the world within fraction of a second. That's where teleconnection or a mind connection that can establish. That means there are so many thoughts it can generate. And as we get these thoughts, no, it is like you're putting seeds onto the fertile land of our brain.
Right.
Now, which seed is very important for us, which seed we should nurture, is what we have a control on. And the control that we get is based upon where we really want to go. So you need to set a goal or a destination on which you need to go. And that is where your thoughts can be controlled in the direction that you are. If your goal set is in a right direction that you are reaching and it is in the positive direction, then the positive thoughts will help. So a human being, if you really look at, gets a thoughts and the right thought what he feeds in, and he become what he is thinking about. Gautam Buddha says it is the thought that if you are, it cannot be controlled, it will just come and go. It is like a wind.
Right.
So we breathe here, there is an oxygen everywhere. Can I see the oxygen here? No. But our body is such a way that it takes in, takes only oxygen, and rest of things it gives out. So same what we need to brain, we need to train our brain to ensure that the thoughts that comes in, let it come. You do not control it, but take only those thoughts which helps you to reach to a destination where you really want to. Like if your lungs starts taking other than oxygen, it is of no use. So it has been built by God in such a way, it's biologically done. So similarly our mind also, we can nurture it to keep only the positive thoughts which helps you to be happy always. And that's where I would always refer to Dr. Happiness. He says always be happy all the time, because when you are happy you will do a positive things only. When you get
Right.
into a mood of sad, that is when the negative thoughts will start seeding in there. So keep yourself in a happy mode all the time, and that is possible only when you are in the gratitude phase. Give gratitude to everything. As we speak now, Fatah, this might be the last breath for many people in this universe.
Right.
We are gratitude to God that I can do one more, take one more breath. We don't know whether I am there tomorrow or not, but I'm spending this time with you, expressing my gratitude to you because I could, through this platform, can convey this gratitude to the people who are listening in. And God bless everybody on this. So that is where my life goes in across, and everybody starts living that they can live happily. Nothing can hurt them.
That's so beautiful, right? And of course, gratitude is the way. That's the right attitude. And once you are able to build that right attitude and be happy all the time, controlling your thoughts and nurturing the right thoughts, that will help us, right? So that's something coming from internal, right? That's something I do it for myself. But how about the environment? What role does the environment play in our lives and in making ourselves mentally strong or building that positive attitude?
I think you have put another very good question, and that's the appropriate time as well, especially for the student that I would like to leave the thoughts with their parents as well. Its environment plays a very important role for controlling your emotions. In the process, THE, I talked about emotion.
Right.
Emotions are very much controlled to the environment that you are in, people who are surrounded with you, and this is where the energy also comes in across. So the E stands for three parts here: emotions, energy, and environment. We are a sort of energy. We emit energy in every aspect of our life. And the energy comes in across through an environment that you are in. Especially emotions are impacted through this environment. If you are surrounded with the people who are talking bad about you or wrong about you, you start feeling, okay, is this something wrong with me? Am I doing that? That will impact the emotions. Especially when I said in the beginning of this one, saying, okay, this is very timely because this is where the slowly kids gets into their exam preparation coming March, April, and all those stuff. As a parent, they need to have an environment within the house, putting that positivity in the students. They starts putting that negativity, saying, oh, you're not reading, you're not done this. That sort of negative emotions or negative environment that gets created will impact them too much, and they get into another side of it. Okay, to give that in a different aspect, try to give them an encouraging words in order to create an environment of encouraging words, and they starts doing better. And it could be even in your team, in the team, if they are performing to not to the satisfactory level, how do you pass that message across is very important. Put it across, but with the compassion, by giving that encouragement, and they improve from stage to stage, provide that positivity with them, and that is where they will be able to grow to a level of outperforming. As I told you earlier, there are instances where for a particular year somebody would have been tagged lower. In my team itself, what I've done is focused on them, provided the timely feedback and encouragement in order to outperform, and there are many people who have outperformed them and done a great job. The other aspect is whether they are doing right things specific to their skills. For example, a student, if I take, he is not good at science, and we are planning to put him in science and pushing him to do something which is not under his capacity. As I said in the beginning, we are not assessed where he is, and we are not given an environment to change his capacity. Then you're trying to push him across, and that is where the negative environment gets created. And this is very important to get a best out of everybody. Everybody has a great potential. We can extract best from everybody. And when the mind is beautiful, it is not in the battle.
Right, absolutely. And while talking about environment, you spoke about parents, you spoke about team members, right? But what is the role of friends, like people who are surrounding us all the time, right? So, does that also create a positive or a negative impact on us? And how can this be taken care, especially with students?
Very, very, very important and very good question, Fatah. Friends are very influential in everybody's life. Okay. How do we tag a friend as a best friend or a good friend or a, so what happens is negative attracts much faster than the positive. If you are surrounded with a set of people, even one person is having a bad behavior, it influences everybody. I still remember in our college days, it is not that okay, everybody is a smoker, but there was a group of people, one person is smoking. Eventually, over a period of time, the 10 of them, all of them started smoking. This sort of habits no is much easy to catch because they find it is thrilling, whereas it is difficult to, once you get addicted to any of these habits no, it is difficult to get out of it, though you know that is not good. And this is where the friends and environment plays a very important role. And I always say this is sort of another sort of mental wellness aspect that need to be looked at, despite knowing this is not good for you, and people get addicted to those habits. And
Right.
why? If they sit and relax and think about it, they understand the consequence of it. Then why? So this is again an environment which plays, especially friends, that it plays, because nobody learns any of these habits by their own. It is a friends who will bring in that, and you need to find out who should be your friend, with whom you should be associated with, what environment that you should be in. So this is where the control is very important.
Right. I think you actually hit the nail there, and exactly what you're talking about. I think for especially for the bad habit itself, it's a big topic altogether. But when it's coming to environment, I think this is something which somebody has very well said. Your environment is more powerful than your willpower, right? So if someone is
100%.
thinking that, hey, I'm not going to become a smoker if I am with nine smokers around me, right? You might test it because your willpower, right? This has been tested, scientifically proven as well. Your environment is always more powerful than your willpower. If you are around them most of the times, then there will be a time when you pick up that cigarette and you will also start smoking, right? So that's where choosing the right environment is very important if we have to change our life in the positive ways, right? So that's
Very true,
that's I
Pratap.
think very profound there. And you also spoke about how you have been giving feedback for people on performances and other things. You have been in there in the industry, IT industry especially, for about 30 years now, right? So we these days we are talking a lot about emotional intelligence. We are talking a lot of about compassion, right? How important is it for leaders to be compassionate and also have emotional intelligence in their leadership style?
I think, is EQ greater than IQ? Is a question that we need to look at. I think as a leader, especially if you are in an industry where you are dealing with humans, EQ is much more important than your IQ. Emotionally, when you are trying to look at it, and that's where the true team gets built. If you are a team well connected, they are emotionally connected for the purpose that you are set for. Every project has its own goals, and its goal has to be bought. It has to be engraved with every member within the team. And that is when you will be able to achieve better results. Result is one part of it, but as a leader, people will start following you, people will start obeying with you on an aspect because you are emotionally connected with everybody within the team. Because as, especially in IT industry, if you look at, people are your assets, and they are the one who deliver you results. If you understand that bit and do take care of it, yes, money matters, but money is not only the matter over there. It is more importantly the freedom and a control. You leave them with their accountability and make them accountable for the end results, by making sure that okay, we are here for a goal, we are here for a purpose. The purpose is understood for any project, and project execution becomes much easier. And this is something that every leader, every manager at a level, as a team lead also, they need to start understanding, creating clear boundary, and creating clear accountability, and binding the team emotionally together to achieve the goal.
Right. And I think one of the toughest jobs, right? That's why leaders are paid high salaries when it comes to leadership roles. And understanding that emotional quotient and being able to have that EQ, which is always like comparatively more than the IQ, can make you great leaders. I think we had some great conversation around a lot of things. Now, what are the different initiatives that you are taking, Suresh? Because I am aware of few initiatives that you have been taking, right? But if you have to summarize, what are the different initiatives that you have been taking, or someone can take, if they want to help people in building that mental strength and wellness?
Yeah, thank you, Fatah. First and foremost is awareness, because being aware can get you a way forward for your life. So I take a lot of sessions or a lot of awareness sessions in various platforms and forums, especially in the Rotaries and other social organizations, and in the colleges and schools, to make them clearly aware that it is very important for one to understand what they are going through and not to end their life. I always say, and that my talk with the same wherever I go, I say, after you leave, people say, rest in peace. Let us not go there. Let us allow people to live in peace. Live in peace rather than thinking about rest in peace. So, to
Right.
do that, what are the things that are required to be done? Is what I'm bringing awareness. Initiative wise, I bring in across, especially for an IT people who are going through the stress, they can connect me and I talk to them one on one, helping them out. How do they can recover from their current state? And as you said in the beginning, these jobs are any day is on an edge of a sword. They can lose their job any day, and they should have something that has been prepared for them in order to make sure, okay, they are not depending on a single source of income. They can lead their life comfortably, because that introduces a lot of mental stress. And recently, a lot of people, after the 14,000 people who are chalked up from this one, so some of them have reached out saying, okay, what do I do and what need to be done? The first and foremost is having that awareness, saying, okay, this can also happen another day. So do not depend upon only, okay, this will happen. And this is a problem that current situation is as well. For what happens is, as the uh, single source of income, they have an X revenue that is coming in across, they will have an Y pipeline that is going in across. If the
Hmm.
input is cut, the output becomes very, very difficult for them. And that is where the stress get developed. They need to find out, okay, what is the outflow and how can we control the outflow and matching and having a certain capacity to run for some more time at least, because situation may not be the same every day for everybody.
Right.
That need to be looked at, and that is, see, financial aspect of one life of, and personal aspect of is another one which will impact, because they get married, they have to relocate to somewhere else, their parents are somewhere. This also puts a stress on these team members. So there are various aspects, as I said, in the life, no, they get married and they don't have a kid for 5 6 years, then there is a pressure from it. They also feel that the infertility is the biggest problem, so that also introduces stress. And after kids, they think, okay, this is a life, and then they start, oh, kids are need to put in a school, they don't find admission to right school. Every stage of life you can take, they go through a stress. But how do they manage it is very important aspect.
Yes. And you are also coming up with your book, Battling Mind to Beautiful Mind. We can see it here on the screen itself. Right. So, again, what does this book cover, and who can actually pick up this book once it is out there so that it can help them?
Definitely, Fatah, this is primarily for people who are going through a difficult part in the life. It could be any stage of the life. What I'm explaining there in the book primarily is to giving that context of it. This too shall pass is a foundation on which I'm building it, giving a connect, spiritual, physical, and mental aspect of health, covered with thoughts, habits, and emotions. That is how I am driving this across as a framework, and people get benefited to understand the process of getting that resilience built within, and with that they can go through self discovery part of it. Now, recovering from where they are right now to a level where they really want to, and get to a level of outperforming or performing to a full of their capacity or a potential, or increase their potential from where they are to where they can be, is what I am covering in this particular book, and helping people to live a happy life.
Great. That is really nice. And when can people expect this book and where can they purchase this book once this is out?
The book will be on Amazon, and it shall be in the Amazon by 2023, most probably by Jan mid or so. I'll be sharing that link across for people to book this and have their copy and go through and build a beautiful life for them.
Great. That is really nice. And uh, like if people have to connect with you, right? What are the
Yeah.
various channels that they can connect with you? Are you available on LinkedIn or Insta or Facebook? Where can they start following you and connect with you so that if required, they can reach out to you for help?
Yeah, I'm mainly on LinkedIn. That's my primary for social media profile. Many people connect me through LinkedIn, but I'm also on the Facebook, and I have a, Insta connection as well, Instagram as well. People can reach out to me, but preferably I would look at connecting through LinkedIn. That's a professional media, and I can help professionals better than normal set of people, because I whatever I have gone through, what I have seen in my life, if it helps one more person to light their candle, and that will help. What I always believe is what Buddha said: lights candle for somebody else, it gives brightness to you as well.
That is amazing. That is really amazing. So I think it was a good message that you actually shared in the conclusion as well. So thanks, Suresh, for being with us and sharing a lot of your knowledge, experience, and sharing with people how they can actually handle mental fitness, mental strength. How do they become mentally fit and go from battling mind to beautiful mind. So thank you for being here and sharing your experience and knowledge with the audience.
Thank you Fatah for platform, and any soul that gets connected with us will definitely a pleasure for me, and spread this message across. It's okay, people go through difficulties, but it is not okay to stay there. So be there with us in order to help yourself for a beautiful mind, and let's live in peace.
Great. Thank you. And thanks everyone who has been watching us live and people who are going to watch on recording. If you feel that you need any help, or if you feel there is somebody else in your environment or around you who you think needs help, you can get them connected with Dr. Suresh Adiga. He's available on LinkedIn primarily and other social media platforms. And you can also share with them this episode, which can give them some awareness so that they can get started on fixing some challenges for themselves, and then they can reach out to other sources and then they can get more help from there. So thank you everyone once again, and thank you Suresh for being with us once again. Thank you and have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Fatah. Good night.
Good night.